Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back. I'm Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections and your host of the Networking RX podcast. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for subscribing and referring others, and certainly thanks for the comments and questions you've sent in. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that we're looking to add quality people to our stable of franchisees. This is a unique franchise opportunity in that it's geared for an aspiring entrepreneur or professional to add on to what they're already doing. Again, all of our franchisees do something else for just a couple hours in the morning, a few days a week. Our franchisees operate the AmSpirit Business Connections program. The rest of their week, they're accountants, attorneys, financial advisors, realtors, coaches, and consultants of various kinds. So if you're interested or know someone's interested, contact me. There's an email in the show notes, or you can use the one provided at the end of this podcast. Now, if I had to give this podcast another name, I'd call it, well, I'm not sure what the exact name, but somehow it would contain the words know, like, and trust. I'm sure that those words have come up in each and every episode I've had so far and will continue to as we move forward. And to be honest, with a podcast devoted to being better at networking, those words should continually come up. In the very first episode, I know I referred to know, like, and trust as the quintessential elements of any networking relationship. And I've gone on to say time and again, we do business with, we associate with, we network with those that we know, like, and trust. All things being equal, we do business or refer those we know, like, and trust. And I contend that we do business and refer those we know, like, and trust, even when all things are not equal. I think of people I do business with or refer, they may not have the best price or be the best at what they do, but I know I like them and mostly I trust them. I know they won't let me down. I know they'll not let the people I've referred to them down. And if for whatever reason things don't work out, and things happen in business, things happen in life, if something doesn't work out, and I become disappointed, or whoever I referred become disappointed, I'm confident that that person that I've referred or used will make it right. So today, I want to devote some time to trust. Now, as I said in episode 5, which was entitled Networking and Know, Like, and Trust, many consider trust as the most important element in the know, like, trust trifecta. I don't want to get into that debate. I'm not saying it's a pointless discussion, but it's not worth the time for the purposes of this episode, or even for this podcast for that matter. I'll leave that for somebody else. What I will say about trust relative to its know-like counterparts is that it's a tad more nebulous. In reality, there's a degree of vagueness to all three, sure, but of know, like, and trust, the notion of trust, as far as being nebulous, wins hand down. Think about it. We understand knowing and how it comes about. We have a sense as to what we would like to know. Similarly, we understand like. We might not completely understand why people like us or don't, or why that might change like the wind, but we have a general sense as to what like is. Trust is, however, a degree or two more nebulous than know and like. Trust is just one of those things that's hard to define. You know it when it's there, and you know it when it's not. Referring back to episode 5, again entitled Networking and Know, Like, and Trust, I put forth a definition that what I'll call a master networker once shared with me for trust. They viewed trust in others as a firm confidence in their virtue and abilities. What this was suggesting is that there's really two parts to trust, and they're both important. First, there's honesty of character, which says we'll do the things that we've pledged to do. And then the second piece is reliability of product or service. What this says is that we'll not only do it, but we'll do it well. As such, to create and maintain trust, we must continually reinforce within our network faith in both our honesty and our reliability. An example, which I shared in episode 5, when you reach out to a financial investor to invest a sizable inheritance that you've received, let's say it's $1 million, as you hand over the money, you have faith, confidence, or trust that the person will not flee to the Caymans with your nest egg. And you must have faith, confidence, or trust that while they won't flee to some island nation, they know what they're doing when it comes to making that investment grow. Honesty and reliability. You need to establish both. As I indicated at the time, I could see that discussion morphing into future programs, and well, here we are. This is a more in-depth conversation of the element of trust, and more specifically, what we can do to get people to trust us. The first point to make is that it's not the obligation of anyone to trust us. Trust needs to be earned, and that is true no matter your position. No matter how high you rise, you need to earn trust. And this is a constant throughout time. Even kings and queens, prime ministers, presidents, and chiefs have all had to earn the trust of the people. They may or may not have, depending on the person and the circumstances, but the onus was on them to earn the trust of others. Trust is not a right. Trust doesn't just happen. So trust needs to be earned. So let's talk about things that can serve to not only create trust, but also keep trust in place. Now, this is not a point-by-point discussion of all the little things necessary to create trust, such as smile, have a good handshake, maintain eye contact. All those things are important, and we'll touch on all of them in time, not in this podcast episode, but we will touch on all of those as an ongoing discussion throughout this podcast series of good networking best practices. This, however, is a more general conversation of building trust. In so doing, I want to focus attention on the biggest, the most important ideas for building trust. The first thing is be open to trusting others first. In the first episode, I talked about the golden rule of networking, which was give first, get second. Gaining trust kind of falls in that same category. Gaining trust requires that you be open to giving trust first. Think about it. Someone comes up to you and remarks, "I don't trust you." What's your immediate reaction? You become defensive, your body language tightens, you almost reflexively respond, "Why not?" Work through this role play in your head. At that moment, what's your level of trust towards that person? Even if the person was someone you trusted prior to that moment, chances are their remark that they don't trust you impaired your trust in them. It's almost as if your brain goes through this instantaneous mental logic computation that goes something like this. Well, if they don't trust me, I'm not sure what that means for me, so perhaps I shouldn't trust them either. Now, what if that same person comes to you and says, "I trust you"? Whatever the context, you'll likely relax a bit. You'll likely like them. After all, they trust you. That's the reasoning going on in your head. And from that, you become more open to trusting them. Now, none of this suggests that we should take needless risks with our personal safety or social security numbers. But it does encourage that if we want people to trust us, we need to be open to finding ways, even just a small degree, we need to be open to finding ways to trust them and somehow communicate to them that we trust them. The second thing is focus on the little things with respect to building trust. Often when people look to build trust, they're looking for that big moment or opportunity to make it happen. Back to my financial advisor example, the person might be looking for someone to entrust them with $1 million so they can do the right thing and do a good job and then forever be able to point to that moment as evidence of their trustworthiness. Then when it doesn't happen, when they don't get the $1 million and people don't entrust them, they become frustrated and will vent. How can I demonstrate my trustworthiness unless someone gives me a chance? Know this, the trust that others have in you is like the Great Wall of China. It just didn't come rolling out of a box one day. Rather, it was built stone by stone by stone. Every day, we have dozens and dozens of opportunities to add stones to our great wall of trust. Every day. Be on time to a meeting, you add to it. Give someone your undivided attention, you add a little more. You follow through on an assignment or a project, you add a bunch. Yes, you'll have big opportunities to build trust. Generally, those opportunities are few and far between, however. But sandwiched in between them will be lots and lots of little ones. Don't overlook those. The little ones, the little things are the big test. Think about it. We don't mess up on big things. A reputable financial planner is going to move heaven and earth to ensure that that $1 million investment is appropriately taken care of. We tend to show our true colors, however, on the small things. It's like the Muhammad Ali quote, "I don't trust someone who's nice to me but rude to the waiter, because they would treat me the same way if I were in that same position." We're going to be nice to the star actor or athlete, or the important dignitary. But what about the person who's just bringing you soup? The financial advisor gives great service to the millionaire investor, sure. What about the person just getting started with $1,000? Again, your life, my life, has countless wonderful opportunities that are almost invisible occasions to solidify the perception in others' minds that we're trustworthy. We need to make the most of them. The third thing is be open to compromise, if not outright sacrifice. You can't expect that trust is building too much when things are moving in your favor. Sure, you build a little bit of trust when you get someone an invoice for exactly what you agreed to bill them for. But you build a lot more trust in that moment when the project got off track, and maybe it wasn't your fault, but you need to trim the invoice a little bit. Sure, the financial advisor builds a little trust when he or she's on time to collect the $1 million investment, but the financial advisor builds a lot more trust when he or she is on time to serve a community board that has no immediate or ever promise of client investments. Building trust entails making compromises. It might require sacrifice. Others know that it doesn't take much integrity to devote time and attention to attend to a situation that serves to benefit you. But if you devote time and attention to a situation that doesn't serve to benefit you, at least not immediately, that takes compromising your priorities at a minimum, or making an outright sacrifice. Those moments serve to build trust. Finally, be patient. Yes, I get it. You want a successful business. You want a successful life. And you want it now. As such, you want to build a network seemingly overnight that'll deliver those things. In fact, from time to time, people will ask me to look back and think about how I built my network. I have a large, productive, very rewarding network. They ask me to help them navigate around the mistakes, the trial and error, avoid the learning curve, so they can have the know, like, and trust now. The reality is, I can't show them the way. First of all, the shortcomings are part of the success. But more importantly, trust doesn't just happen. It takes time. You can't rush it. Not everyone becomes trusting at the same pace. If you're a financial advisor, it's going to take longer for someone to develop trust as compared to if you were merely selling flowers. If the economy is booming and people are optimistic about tomorrow, trust will likely develop faster than when times are tight. If you have an impressive track record that others can extrapolate from, trust will likely be easier to come by than if you're just starting out. Any which way, trust is built over time and through the completion of a series of events. You can't rush it, nor can you force it. It's not predictable. It just takes time. You need to bide your time. You need to be open to trusting others, which is not always easy. You need to continually assess the situation, looking for opportunities to do the little things. Those 1,000 little things follow that big opportunity, followed by 1,000 other little things that build trust. As that happens, You need to be mindful of accepting compromises and sacrifices as part of the process. But if you do these things consistently and diligently, you'll build trust. And you'll always have trust trailing from the know and like that you've already established.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.